Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our March meeting of the Fair Rent Commission. I'd like to open the meeting with we call the meeting to order at 7:31. We have a quorum of commissioners tonight, including, for the record, on the phone, the 203-849 number is Peter Halliday. And I would like to open the meeting with a review of last month's minutes of the February 1st meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? And I'll post them on the screen so we can review them together.
I'm trying to get my camera on. I don't know what's going on.
It's okay, Brenda, you're all right.
Until I fix my camera, it's gonna be like that. I'm trying to get
Is there
it
a button on your computer that that kind of automatically turns the camera off or on?
I don't know.
It blocks it. That's what it looks like from our angle. But
I don't know. But I'm working on it. Okay, so you guys can see my pretty face as soon as I get it fixed. Okay.
don't worry, Brenda, we're all good. We know what you look like. All right.
Beautiful,
So
beautiful.
Here are the minutes from last month's meeting. Did anyone have any comments or concerns on page 1? I'd like to make one comment. We have a tradition in the Fair Rent Department or Fair Rent Commission of calling the chair a chair as opposed to a chairman or a chairwoman. That was started by our late chair, Patty Gennario, and I would like to continue that tradition. So if you could, in the future and for these minutes, change it to John Church Chair, that would, I think, be appropriate. Thank you. Any other changes?
Yes, on Mr. Weldon, that should be Ms. Weldon.
Yep, agreed. Any changes on page 2?
And I guess they'll know to change chairman to chair on this page also.
Yep, throughout.
Okay.
All right, if there are no other changes, then I'll take a motion.
I move that the minutes be approved with the corrections mentioned.
Any seconds?
Second.
It's Peter, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion passes. Great. It's approved. Thanks, everybody. All right, on to our second item on the agenda tonight, which is that we have a new commissioner that I wanted to introduce and give a chance to introduce herself. And Lunisa, I apologize if I'm going to mispronounce your name, but I believe it's Lunisa Constant. So welcome. Thank you for joining our commission. And why don't you just introduce yourself very briefly so the rest of the commissioners get a chance to meet you.
All right, you pronounced it correctly. I'm happy to be here to learn and to contribute positively and see how you guys do things on this commission. I am a recent, out of college now for 2 years and interested in serving Norwalk and getting into politics. And I was blessed by Darlene to get this opportunity. So I'm just very happy to be here and see where things go with this.
Well, we're really happy
Well,
to have
welcome. Welcome, Moniz.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
you. And I will tell you that I joined the Fair Rent Commission when I was 2 years out of college, and that was a lot longer ago than I'd care to acknowledge.
And he contributes significantly.
So we appreciate you joining and welcome your contributions to the city of Norwalk. Thank you. All right. On to our next item, which is the chair's report, and I'm going to share the agenda too, just so everybody can know. That's the minutes again. Sorry. Anyway, I'll share it in a second, just so everybody can see it. I'll share the agenda. But the next item is the chair's report. And tonight on the report for the March meeting, I wanted to take the moment to call to your attention a couple of items that have been in the local news recently. One, I don't know if everyone saw, but there was a fire where no one unfortunately was hurt a couple of nights ago at an apartment in Norwalk that at least the news reports identified as an illegal apartment. And I know that frequently in the past, the Fair Rent Commission and the department worked very closely with the health department when we would get a case, and they would, often go to an apartment, investigate what the situation of the apartment was like. And if it appeared that it might be an illegal apartment or might have elements that were unsafe violations of the health code, they would call in members of the health department to investigate as well. And that's something that I think has fallen off a little bit since COVID for obvious reasons, but it is something that I just want to draw our attention to and make sure that we're all aware that within the Fair Rent Department, there are opportunities to, I keep calling it the Fair Rent Department, I'm sorry, but I know that's not technically what it is anymore, but that there are opportunities to coordinate with the other city departments when we receive complaints. And I know that Carlos has been working diligently and with our other city departments, but to make sure that it's not just the fair rent that's involved, but also other aspects where the city can get involved and make sure that our citizens are protected as well. So I want to remind everybody about that because of this recent news brief made me think of it and made me say, you know what, I don't know, we haven't heard recently about coordination with the health department, but I want to make sure that that's still something that's part of the services that we can offer and be involved in.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
The second item I wanted to mention is there's been a lot, at least in my local neighborhood, of conversation about new apartments being built. And I'm not here to take a position one way or the other on new apartments, but one thing that it made me realize is that there are a number of the apartments that I, as a longtime Norwalker, used to think of as, quote, new apartments, are now starting to become mature apartments, at least from a perspective of kind of the broader city housing plan. And so, for instance, the old Avalon, what's now called the Confluence apartments, I still think of those as new apartments. Those were built in 2010. That's almost 15 years ago now. Even something as new as Head of the Harbor South is going on 5 years where it's been open now. So these are all things which they're starting to get more mature as far as apartments go, compared to some of the other ones that are being built. And as that happens, it wouldn't surprise me to start to see either repair issues come up or other types of issues come up, particularly with the nature of the rents being charged at these apartments. And so I think that that's just something we should be aware of. The housing stock basically in Norwalk is aging, right? Even the newer ones are going to start to age. And so we should just be aware as that happens, that there may be an increase in complaints and so forth.
But John, the problem I'm having with these new apartments, because there is a crisis in Norwalk. People cannot find apartments. And when they find them, the rent is so high, they can't afford them. So, and they're not given the percentage for affordable like they should. And so I take issue with that.
Yeah, Brenda, I don't disagree with the point that you're making. I don't know that this is the forum for me to proclaim whatever my political beliefs happen to be.
Not, but you brought it up, but it is
no,
not.
I'm bringing it up more in the context of, from a fair rent perspective, I think that we might start to see and be aware of even apartments that we're thinking of as new apartments or as apartments that are not affordable. So like, I think typically the people who are coming to us are coming from apartments that are maybe maintained by a solo landlord. They're not necessarily what you would think of as like the higher end apartments. But I think that as the housing stock starts to age, or the apartment stock starts to age in the city, we should just be aware that might be a population that we haven't seen in the past that we start to see more of. So. And when we've had kind of the more corporate landlord types in the past, those tend to be different situations from a negotiation perspective than when it's a mom and pop landlord. Also, for better or for worse, they have professional staff that's managing it, right? So, just wanted to raise that as something that's in the news that was making me think about kind of Norwalk housing stock. So with that, I'll turn it over to Carlos for the director's report, coordinator's report, sorry.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good evening, everyone. I just want to say that over the last 3 months since I started here, I've been able to help about approximately a little over 100 families. 70% of those have been Spanish-speaking families, and the fact that I'm bilingual and I'm able to communicate with them, I feel like I can connect, build a rapport with them, and help them out greatly. Going back to what John mentioned about connecting them with the health department or the zoning, I encourage every one of those that comes in here, even though they feel that they live in an illegal apartment, I tell them that they have options to report unsafe or unlivable conditions. So I immediately send them over. I either connect them with the family navigators or I send them over to the health department to file a complaint, and a lot of them have done so. I want to say most of them have done so. I'm also keeping tabs on Senate Bill 138, which is looking to cap rent in Connecticut anywhere between 2.5% to 4%. There haven't been any new updates, so I'm keeping track on that bill. I additionally brought up to City Hall possibly going back to meeting in person later on this year, possibly in the summertime. It's gonna be ran through the mayor's office, and there will have to be a hybrid component attached to it. So just want to let you guys know that if that's something that we're looking at doing sometime in the summertime, it could be done in person, but also the room has to have a hybrid component to it.
So why do you want to meet in person? What's the problem doing it like this?
We had talked last week, both Fran and I had raised the conversation that I just thought it would be good for us to meet face to face since we haven't in a couple of years, or at least start considering it, particularly if we're ever going to have a hearing. I think those also probably work best in person. So, and we are saying that hearings are options. So I want to make sure that we've had some comfort with each other face to face. That's all. Thank you for looking into that.
Okay, as long as you have hybrid, I'm fine with it. You, whomever want to meet in person can. I like doing this on Zoom.
We wouldn't want to miss you, Brenda. That's okay.
We miss seeing you, Brenda. Without you.
I'm trying to fix this camera. I don't know what I'm doing.
Understood. Thank you. And that's all I have from the coordinator's report.
All right, then we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which I finally have up, which is the discussion of open cases. And I believe those are not on this form. So let me share those. And Attorney Liskoff, I turn the floor over to you.
Okay, I'm not able to see that document.
Yeah, I'll pull it up in a second.
All
Sorry.
right, thanks. You just help me out a lot when you pull that up. I can
I know.
it jogs my memory, and I can tell you everything that happened by seeing what Carlos produced for me.
I sent that out in the meeting packet earlier today.
Yeah, I pulled up the agenda instead of the meeting packet. So that's fine.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go. Good evening, everybody. Russell Liskov, outside counsel to your commission. I just want to go over the open cases as of March 1st, 2023. The first case is 1817-22, 554 Connecticut Avenue, apartment 441. In this case, the tenant and the landlord, we were meeting, we were going back and forth. The tenant didn't answer our responses. The tenant failed to answer us about, I'd say at least 7 times. The tenant finally contacted us. The tenant has moved out of the apartment. She has left. She made peace with the landlord. They parted on good terms. It just wasn't working out. She wanted a different parking space. The parking space was always filled by other people. She worked different hours and she'd come home and she wouldn't have a parking space. And she complained about garbage. She complained a lot. The landlord would let her out. He didn't charge her anymore and she vacated the property. So it's my recommendation that we close this file because there's really nothing to do anymore. She didn't pay any more rent. The landlord didn't get any more rent. He didn't ask for any more rent and she left the unit of her own accord.
Can we ask questions now?
Sure, whatever you want.
Okay,
We should have a motion first and then we can have
Okay.
discussion.
I move case 1817-22 and the staff recommendation to close the case.
Do we have a second?
second,
Thank you,
Okay.
Peter.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, my discussion is this. Okay, all of those things have happened. It says here on 126, she left a voicemail wishing to proceed with the hearing. Has she signed a release from her complaint with us? I know that that's usually what we have in place in order to close a case.
She is not, and she's not returning any telephone calls anymore. I've probably called her at least 6 more times over the last month to try to speak to her to make sure she's doing well. And it always goes to her voicemail and she does not respond anymore. In my call with her on 127, she told me she was out of there and she was out of there as of 2:15. And I've been calling her steadily since 2:15. She told me she was spoke to her on 2:15. She told me she had returned my call. And I probably called her at least 6 times since the middle of February. So I don't know what more I can do with her other than she's out and she never paid any rent and the landlord has let her out.
I point of just clarification. If the tenant moves, we no longer really have the option to hear the case anyway, right? It's moot at that point.
Correct.
Okay.
So, are these complainants apprised that once they file a complaint, that if it is resolved or if they decide not to, that they need to sign a formal withdrawal of a complaint?
They
I mean,
they are told that. They are. Well, we request it. We can't make them do anything, but we clearly request, because we like to tie our files up in nice little packages at the end too. So
Right.
the next case you're going to see something similar happen where we've been asking the tenant to please file the withdrawal and they haven't. But yes, we'd like to see it wrapped up. But once the tenant has gone on to their other areas, or other issues, or other places to live, a lot of times they just put this behind them. They like to see us at first, but they don't always want to tie up the package at the end.
So is there something that we need to put in our rules or regulations of operation that after a certain period of time of no contact, after everything has been resolved and the person doesn't sign a withdrawal form, that we can just close it? I mean, that's what we do, but do we have to have that in writing somewhere?
I don't think you have to have it in writing somewhere. I mean, certainly when we discuss this meeting is being taped. It's live. There's notes, there's minutes on it to let everybody know what we've done. So there's transparency there. I don't know what more we can do to get the tenant to finish, finish resolving the complaint. I think- I think-
I can understand when they're through with it and they've got what they want, or they're able to move without paying, they can care less about signing a withdrawal form.
We've been pretty lucky over the last couple of years since I've been, a year and a half since I've been around. I'd say 9 out of 10 tenants usually comply with our request to file the withdrawal. Every once in a while, they just, they go away. We have one couple that moved out to Idaho, and they actually got us, and they did get us the withdrawal. It's all electronic now. We send them the request to file it electronically, but sometimes people just won't comply with the request. I think the commission just has to be reasonable, and certainly from this history with this tenant in 1817-22, we really went the full mile to help this person, and they're just not getting back to us.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? All right, we have a motion to vote to close the case. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. We'll go on to the next case.
There we go. Next case is 18-22. It is 106 Cedar Street, apartment 402A. This was an interesting case in that the tenant was a Section 8 tenant there. She's been there for many, many years, and every year they recertify as of October of every year. The tenant recertified in October. The building was sold in November, and the new landlord didn't know that this tenant was recertified. We spoke with the landlord as a large landlord. We met with the landlord, discussed it with the landlord, discussed it with the tenant. The tenant was recertified to paying $15.19 a month. The tenant, they accepted the landlord. They accepted the tenant's recertification to the $15.19 a month, not the $2,100 a month. And we have sent. We asked that the complaint be withdrawn. We've sent the forms to the tenant on several occasions. The tenant's living there happy. The tenant's living there with the recertification, paying rent at $15.91 a month. The tenant has not sent us the withdrawal form. Carlos has sent it out many times. I don't know why they're not sending in the withdrawal form. I recommend that we close the case. If you want to leave it open for another month, that's fine with me. We can send out another letter to the tenant asking for withdrawal. But at this point, I don't think they're gonna get back to us for the withdrawal. It's the commission's pleasure, but the tenant is happy. They're in there paying their $15.91 a month on Section 8. I recommend we close the file. I'll leave it in your discretion.
I move case 1818-22 and recommend to close the case.
Do we have a second?
So move.
Thanks, Brenda. Brenda seconds. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion passes.
The next case is 18.
That's a typo.
I think there's a typo in there. Is it
20, should be 20, 20, I think, yeah.
1820-23. I'd ask that be amended for the record, just it goes to 1820-23. It's for 12 Weed Avenue. This is a very strange file. It was 2 different people living in an apartment. They were served a notice to quit for a lapse of time, and it was served on a holiday weekend. And it was, again, it wasn't for failure to pay rent, it was a lapse of time. They filed their complaint with the Fair Rent Commission after the notice to quit was served. I have spoken to Attorney Heisler, spoken to the tenant, spoken to Attorney Heisler 4 or 5 more times. They actually went to housing court and signed a stipulated agreement where the tenant would have a certain amount more left of time to stay in the property and make payments. And there's a court judgment in place already. So I think whatever they did, they superseded us before we ever had a chance to do anything. So I'd recommend that we don't hear the case. They have a state court judgment which binds both parties. I don't think there's anything this commission can do to set aside a state court judgment. So I'd recommend that we do not hear this case 1820-23.
I move case 1820-23. Staff recommendation to not hear the case.
Any seconds?
Second.
Thank you, Peter. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion passes. On to new cases.
Yes, the new,
Point,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. New cases, sorry.
Okay, new cases, 1821-23, 47 Lexington Avenue. This is a basement unit apartment. We have sent this tenant to the fire marshal, the health department, and the zoning office because I believe that it is an illegal apartment based upon my review of the field cards. And speaking of zoning, Carlos has really gone out of his way to help this person as well. And we do take these basement cases very seriously because it is a health issue. It is a safety issue for the tenant, and it's a safety and health issue for all the other tenants in the building, as well as the fire department in case there's ever a fire having to get access to those units. You're not getting out of those units. This is a case where they actually did the inspection, the fire department. They found it was an illegal dwelling, and the landlord came in and started doing lots of things he shouldn't do. They filed a complaint on 2/13. They received a notice to quit on 2/14 after the complaint was filed. Other things have been done. I've spoken to their attorney who are doing these things, and we've actually sent this person also an attorney to defend fall within our bailiwick, and we need to protect this tenant, and we need to make sure these illegal apartments don't happen. Look, one of the problems with this case is the tenant is actually relatively ill and has been in the hospital, so it's been very difficult to talk to the tenant. We've been dealing with his sister, but I would recommend that we do hear the case, and we'll keep working on it. I'll be able to report more back to you next month on it if you accept the case.
I want to know if it's an illegal case. If it's an an apartment, what can we do about that? It's illegal, even though they've removed all that stuff, I can understand. But what can we do because it's an illegal apartment?
Well, there's several things we can do. Probably the biggest thing you do is that the tenant who is there is entitled to relocation benefits. And the town has the ability to give them relocation benefits, set them up somewhere else, make the landlord pay us back. If the landlord doesn't pay us back in 30 days, we have the right to lien the property and collect and foreclose against the landlord for that illegal apartment. So I'm a big believer in relocation benefits for tenants of that nature. The problem I have right now is that the tenant is in the hospital and he's really not communicating with us very well. But let's vote to hear the case, and then we can move on with other things over the month.
I move case 1821-23 to the staff recommendation to hear that case.
Any seconds?
Second.
Thank you, Peter. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We will be voting, we will be hearing the
So-
case. Yep.
I have a question. Notice the quit receive. Carto, who is doing this? Is this the landlord doing all this to
That
the
is,
tenant?
Well, the notice to quit is by the landlord's attorney. The landlord is definitely doing all these crazy things about moving kitchens and cabinets and doors and cars. And we had a long talk with the landlord's attorney. I've known their attorney for about 30 years. And he told me, and I believe him, and he spoke to me, he spoke to his client, that he told the landlord to stop doing all these things he was doing. And we sent him to a private attorney to be able to sue that. We sent the tenant to a private attorney so he could actually sue his landlord for a cause of action called wrongful entry and detainer. So we're helping this tenant every way we can. And the attorney who represents the landlord is doing his best to stop his client from doing illegal things.
Okay. What, this doesn't have anything to do with you, Russell, I don't think. But when did we start using LL and TN for tenant and landlord? Is that
Oh.
somebody's?
that's just our abbreviation internally, but Carlos, I'll talk to you after the meeting, probably tomorrow. I'll just send you a note on a couple of items.
I mean, it's okay, but we just need to know.
Yeah, and there was NTQ on the prior page too, which I didn't realize was noticed to quit until
Yeah.
Attorney Liskov said it. So, yep. Good points.
I
think that
I think there's definitely, there'll be, with what you're seeing is Carlos's nomenclature versus Jasmine's nomenclature, who did it for, however many years for all the people beforehand. So Carlos is very good. He'll do whatever you want him to do, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I know.
I was actually, I went over.
We just need fair warning when things have changed like that.
My apologies. I was looking at Adams and Anna Keegan's notes from the past, and they use all those abbreviations. And that's why I thought, since the commission has seen it in the past, I would just continue doing it.
No. Well, maybe others saw it, but I didn't. Put it that way.
Understood?
So I have another question. Is the man in the hospital because of all this stuff that was done to him?
I would say no. There have been some allegations that he is in the hospital because of it. Supposedly I don't know how much you want me to get into this or not, but based upon his diabetic condition, whether got his insulin or didn't get his insulin may or may not be an issue, but it's not an issue for us at the moment anyway.
I think the larger issue is that he was in an illegal apartment and he needs to be resettled to a legal one, and the landlord is being maybe overzealous in fixing the
He is, but
issue.
unfortunately, I think I can negotiate a nice paycheck for this tenant to move, but his sister is not really, he's not talking to us at all right now. I don't mind working through his sister. That's okay. But they need to at least give us some marching orders as to what they want or what they need to
Right.
bring the case to resolution. If I say to them, it's an illegal apartment, your landlord is going to have to relocate you. He can relocate you, the city can relocate you, or you can relocate yourself. Do you have another place to relocate to? Well, my brother's in the hospital right now. Well, do you have any idea what number it would take for you to be relocated? Which includes moving expenses, which includes security deposit, which includes first month's rent. Can you give me a number as to what you would be interested in to resolve this case? Because I can't have you really in an illegal apartment for very much longer. Well, my brother's in the hospital. I really can't talk about it. So we're coming to a
Challenging
point
situation.
where I need real input from the tenant as well. I'll climb the highest hill, but I do need to be given some ropes,
So Russ, Well, I'm having an issue of why did they come to us? Because it says he's been there since 2013. After
Yeah.
a fire, when was the fire? And is that when he found out that he was in an illegal? What is his reasoning for coming to us?
Well, the landlord wanted more money as well.
Oh, okay, I don't see that.
Yeah.
So
there-
is
there's a
that-
whole- There's a whole story. This can turn into a War and Peace novel for, if, you know, but I'm gonna try, I'm gonna really,
Because the way it's read, you will wonder why he's coming to us. Okay, because of the way it's read, it's illegal. Is it because the landlord is doing all this because he found out it's illegal? It does not say the reason why the tenant is coming to us.
I think it's a combination of everything. I think there are multiple factors involved.
Oh, okay, so I
But-
would like more clarity when we have these cases, like, because it's not really telling us what the tenant wants. It does not say he's upping his rent, doesn't say anything. It's just saying it's an illegal apartment and what he's done. So if you have an illegal apartment, this guy is doing the right things for his illegal apartment.
I agree with you. The question is sometimes the tenants aren't always clear as to what they want. That's where I really need the input from the tenant or his sister as to what they want us to do for them.
Well, I don't see that they want anything. I just see what the landlord is doing because it's an illegal apartment. I don't see anything that tells us that the man want us to do anything. It doesn't say that he's
Okay,
raising the rent. It doesn't say anything.
For next month, we'll add more detail to it.
And also add when the fire occurred.
Okay,
I know it didn't occur in 2013. And
I
he said,
think it was substantially after that, but we'll add more details for the commission. Hopefully the tenant will tell me what they need and I can get them a check and I can move them along the way and hopefully this gentleman will get out of the hospital and not have to be in these type of conditions.
I believe we already voted on this, but because we've had significant discussion since then, I don't know if this is within Robert's rules or not, but I'm calling it as it is. I'm going to take an updated vote on this, just to, if anyone has difference of opinion. We do have a motion on the floor to hear the case. And we have a second on that motion. But since we've had significant discussion, all in favor?
I want to know why we're hearing the case. Because it doesn't.
Brenda, so you can either
Because
abstain
I
or.
don't know why we're hearing the case. It doesn't say that the tenant want us to hear the case. The landlord, at what I see, is doing the right thing. And I don't see why we're gonna hear the case.
So you
where I'm
can
looking at it.
either abstain or you can vote against, Brenda. It's totally fine. All in favor of hearing the case?
Aye.
I,
1, 2. Lenise?
Aye.
Great. All right. All.
wait
any
a minute.
opposed? Yep.
Let me ask something. Well, since we voted on everything, but could I make a motion that, or an amendment to that motion that based upon the additional information we need or requested during the discussion, that we can hear the case, vote to hear the case?
So it's a conditional hear the
Yeah.
case?
Yeah,
So I believe that if we chose to, we could choose next month to choose not to close the case if we've already voted to hear it, or we
Well,
could vote not to hear it, or we can vote to
but-
take no action.
John,
Yep.
I'm just confused on why we're gonna hear a case.
I understand. I'm not. I'm just
No,
telling you
but
that.
I want people to know.
Yep.
I'm confused. We don't have enough information to hear the case. All we see here is what the landlord is supposed to do. So if my
No, well, it's
hearing,
what the landlord's done. So I think the issue is, if I was going to explain it, and Carlos and Russell,
okay,
correct me if I'm
explain
wrong.
it to me.
The issue is that the landlord was doing all these things before the tenant had been resettled, which means that the tenant still had certain rights with respect to the apartment, and those rights were not being adhered to. And so the complaint was filed prior to being issued a notice to quit, prior to, certain other things going on, and the complaint was filed because the tenant was trying to protect his ability to remain in the apartment until he was able to get a new place that was not an illegal apartment, right? Is that basically it? And so how do you protect that without, being kicked out? That's where Carlos and Attorney Liskov were able to support him.
Agreed basically. There's even more to it than that. But yes, I agree with your analysis.
But if we go with the information that we're given, we're voting for the landlord, and I don't think, I think this guy was done wrongly.
Well,
However,
that's why
the way
he
it
filed
was,
the complaint. That's why the tenant filed the complaint. This is not the landlord's complaint. This is the tenant's complaint filed with us.
okay, but if you have an illegal apartment, the landlord has done everything he's supposed to do with an illegal apartment.
That's not correct. If you have an illegal apartment, you become an unevictable class of tenant. You can't, that's a defense for eviction, is that the apartment was illegal. Tenant might even be able to get all the money back that he's paid in rent to the landlord for all that time. It could actually be a violation of the Connecticut Unfair Trade Practices Act to rent an illegal apartment.
Okay,
that's
so then we need to know that. I need to know that, because how I'm looking at it, the man now is caught, his hands are in the cookie jar. So he's trying to make it right by taking everything out and saying it's not an apartment now. So you need to say
You can't do
Russ,
that. You
because-
can't do that, though.
Okay.
You can't just go in and gut someone's apartment who's living there. There's a civil action called wrongful entry and detainer. And you can't just go in, just because the apartment is illegal doesn't mean they can do all these terrible things to a tenant. That's why the tenant filed the complaint, and that's why I'm recommending that you hear it.
Okay, but that you needed to say so I could understand that, okay? Thank you very
Okay.
much.
No problem. I think it's a matter of nomenclature, but we will add more details to it for next month.
Thank you.
No, I understand. I appreciate your input.
Well, with him saying that, I will vote to hear. It's more clarity to me.
All right. So there are a couple of things going on, right? We have a motion on the floor to vote to hear the case. We've been trying to take a vote on it, but we've had further discussion. So then we had discussion of a different motion being issued instead. So right now I'm saying, Fran, you're muted, but hold on a second. Right now I'm saying we have a motion on the floor to vote to hear the case. That's the sole motion on the floor right now. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. We're hearing this case. Great. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for your patience as we work that out. I'm glad we had a good discussion about it. All right.
Thank you, everybody.
No, but we do need all of the information when these new cases are presented to us, so that we can have clarity when we have our discussion and get ready to vote. Because a lot was left out of that we really needed to know.
Noted, Fran.
Thank
Thank you.
All right. We're on to the next item on the agenda, which is old business. Does anyone have any old business to discuss? Does anyone have any new business to discuss? I will take a motion.
Are we having a dinner this year or what?
We are. We would never let you down, Brenda. I mean, you would never let us down.
I was thinking about you today and how you do such a good job in getting us places.
Yeah.
So
We're
this
counting
is
on
the
you.
month that we start this. So we
Okay.
are gonna have a dinner?
we are gonna have a dinner.
Let me ask the question. Did you like John's place or do I look for another place?
I thought it was wonderful. Took a
Oh,
friend
that
there,
was
I took a
great.
friend there just last month.
That was
Okay.
great.
Okay, did you like that, Russ, too? John's place?
Oh, yeah, I'm easy. You call me anything you want to, just don't call me late for dinner.
Okay, all right,
El
so,
Poso.
so this,
Also.
we're on new business. So John, when do
Yep.
we have this in May? Is it May?
June, it's usually
June.
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 Okay, I'll look into it, okay?
Usually the first or second, well, it's usually the second Wednesday in June, I think, because the first Wednesday we still have a meeting.
Second Wednesday in June, we got it.
Hopefully that works for everybody. All right, then I will take a motion.
I move
Motion
to,
to adjourn.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Get out of here.
All
Thanks,
right,
everybody.
thank you, guys. I'm
Have a
sorry I
happy
couldn't get my
Saint-
camera working. Couldn't
Have a
get-
happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy
Yes.
St.
Thank
Patty's
you.
Day.
All right,
Happy
bye.
St. Patty's
Thanks,
Day.
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Welcome, Louisa.
See
bye,
you
everybody.
next month. Bye now.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.